50 Shades of Trump by Nice Pants Man. Chapter 1. Stumped for the Trump. This was it, the moment you'd been waiting for. The cold air chilled your spine as you stood out on Fifth Avenue with the titan of a building looming over you. My very first internship at Trump Tower! I finally made it! To say that success came easily to you was all too far from the truth. You had grown up in a rural area, sadly without a small loan of $1 million, and worked tirelessly to get to New York, the greatest city in the world. Nothing could stop you now, not even the fact that you were working for the Donald himself. You really had nothing against the guy. I mean, he gave you a job for heaven's sake, but his presence in the media hadn't exactly portrayed him as the nicest of guys. Even when you had watched Celebrity Apprentice, you knew the guy was a gigantic jerk at heart. Oh well, as long as I never have to come in contact with him, I should be fine, right? Suddenly, you feel someone slam into you, pushing you headfirst towards the pavement. You have accepted your fate all too clearly until you manage to steer your collision into another person. You stop dead in your tracks, causing the other person to only shift their weight. Looking over your shoulder, you see a man in his 30s, hair slicked back and spewing expletives in your direction. Still shaken from the fall, his words sound muted, but you manage to decipher that he is furious you got in his way. Your attention is then turned to the man you are leaning on, clenching his suit coat like a nervous cat. The detail of the suit is immaculate, black as midnight with a subtle, thin pinstripe. Still, the material is softer than anything you've felt before. You couldn't begin to imagine the thread count on it. A slight cough is emitted from the owner of the suit, coming into view in the sunlight. A bright, golden tan, pure, sand-colored hair swept to the side, the aroma of pure, indistinguishable capitalism, a face more stern and stoic than a brick wall. You are leaning up against none other than your new boss, Donald Trump. A beet red blush encompasses your face as you throw yourself as far away from him as possible. You stare down towards his freshly shined shoes, the back of your neck steaming. Now you are able to hear what the younger man is yelling.
You damn bitch, do you have any idea who this is? He screams. Not to mention that your little stunt almost caused me to fall. How dare you?
Mr. Trump, sir, you begin to stutter. I didn't see you two around, and I'm terribly sorry for my recklessness. Regarding your colleague, With his hand raised, Trump stops you, shifting his gaze over to the young man. Eric, that's enough! And then waved him on in the direction of the towers. I'm so sorry, sirs. I'll pay for any damage caused. Please! You cry out. It's no use. Seeing they've already disappeared, you begin to proceed through the front doors, waiting for another painfully awkward encounter. Well, here's to the first day. What else could happen? Despite all that had happened in those few short moments, this was still your first day. You still had to work. Shuffling awkwardly through the colossal revolving doors, you could only think about your intense hatred of the things. There's no purpose to these at all. When you think about the time wasted for this dumb aesthetic choice, you end up with way more effort than needed. You'd think that smart businessmen would consider this before they... As relevant and timely as this rant is, you can't help but remember the catastrophe that ensued the last time you talked to yourself like this. Maybe you decided you'll write a story about this later. It's what the people want. The lobby of Trump Tower is gorgeous. Dim lights sparkle, sending faint rays of light across the sepia-toned atmosphere. The marble walls and floors are polished to perfection, showcasing your reflection clearly below you. Everywhere you turn, there are escalators and elevators ready to ascend you higher on the path of more success. Even though this lobby itself was probably worth more than your entire hometown, it wasn't overdone at all. Clean lines and muted colors gave a refreshing sense of minimalism, a stark contrast to the oversaturated dynamic of the Manhattan streets you had navigated through all morning. Despite all of this, you looked up and saw the most beautiful sight of all, Starbucks, located conveniently near the entrance. Already rehearsing your order, you glance over towards the lobby's receptionist. She responds by flashing you a sympathetic yet embarrassed smirk. She saw everything. Since you had little time before your shift, you decided to hop in line and grab some coffee. You already knew the correct order to say, 1 grande mocha, no whip, soy milk please, my name is... Although you were a confident and competent force of nature, reciting your order to the barista always gave you a surge of anxiety. Maybe it was because they always reversed the order of questions. Maybe it was because you always felt rushed. Maybe it was because you hated saying your name and always blanked when they asked you. Regardless, it was an issue that you could never prepare for and would rather not deal with. You had some time though, seeing as how the line was unusually long ahead of you. Taking a break from your rehearsal, your mind thought back to Trump. How screwed were you? He didn't seem that mad, just annoyed at the awkwardness of the situation. At least you didn't hold on longer than you did. That Eric guy though, was that his son? The dude seemed pissed off by my existence. I'd better try to steer clear of that guy from now.
Next!
The barista yelled. This causes you to snap back to reality, noticing that the entire line has been held back as a result of your introspection. You have to order now and make it quick. Yes, I'd like a mocha, you sputter out.
What size, ma'am?
The barista said, annoyed. Grande, please. You pause. Oh, and with soy. The barista sighs loudly.
Can I get your name, please?
Beep, 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 beep. You interject. Crap, you said you're never supposed to say The wait is surprisingly short and the drink is received in no time. But sure enough, inscribed on that glorious red cup is what the barista thought to be your name. Beep, 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 beep. She literally thought that the instinctive was the beginning of your name. Excellent. At least I've gotten more than my fair share of awkwardness out of the way today. All I have to do now is just do basic filling and get to know the others in the office. The elevator doors opened and you were greeted with your new office space, filled with ergonomic chairs, mahogany tables, and lots of friendly workers that were ready to greet you. One woman notices your awestruck expression and immediately knows your place. Oh, are you our new intern? I'm Jan. It's a pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much. And yes, my name is beep, 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 beep. Are you the one who had offered to take me on a tour early in that email? You ask. You're halfway right. I was simply dictating for my manager. He'll be showing you around very soon, she confesses. In fact, he is here now. You turn around, only to have your heart plummeted out of your chest. Standing behind you was none other than Eric Trump.
Well, I had no idea my new intern was that nuisance from earlier. This is too rich,
he sneers.
Looks like I'm going to have a lot of fun being your new boss.
Chapter 3. One Grump Trump. Eric couldn't be that bad, right? I mean, sure, the man is really nasty. No one is truly evil, though, right? That's what you had thought only seconds before Eric slammed his fist into your coffee cup. The glorious mocha went flying across the room, soaking deep in the white carpet. And your outfit. Eric glared over at you, giving you a grin so horrendous that it would make the Grinch soil his non-existent pants.
Clean this up, bitch, everything,
Eric barked.
If I see one bit of stain on this new carpet, I'll get Dad to fire you so quick.
He glanced over your stained clothes, a hint of lechery in his eyes.
And have fun dealing with that mess as well.
You wanted to cry, you wanted to run out, ashamed. You couldn't. If scrubbing the carpet was how you would keep this job, then so be it. There was nothing left in your hometown, so this was your only option. You got to work quickly, the first goal being to locate some carpet cleaner. As expansive and luxurious as Trump Towers was, there was not a single place to buy cleaning items. It took an hour of running frantically through the streets of New York, desperately searching for something, anything. Finally, you found a small mom-and-pop shop that had just happened to have one can of cleaner in the corner. By the time you got back to the tower, you surmised that the stain should be in just the right condition to begin treatment. It took forever, but the stain was finally out. You were actually pretty darn impressed with how well it had turned out. However, this victory was short, as you turned to find a desk full of paperwork. A note attached read,
File this, from Eric.
Awesome. By the end of the day, you had nearly everything done. Only a few more files left. You were pleased as Eric entered the room, gesturing towards your empty desk as you continued to prove your competency. He stopped, almost shocked, and then did the unspeakable. His wrist flicked downward. His cup tipped. No! In the spot you had just cleaned, the coffee stain was instantly replaced. Your heart plummeted, and tears began to well up in your eyes. This was it. You were done.
As much as I'd like having you at my beck and call,
He began.
I think I'll begin looking for a new assistant. Someone who speaks less, doesn't get in the way, and shows some damn respect.
Jeez, what's this guy's damage?
Fired! Get out now!
He laughed. And then it happened. A knee-jerk reaction. Hair messy and clothes disheveled. You pushed right past Eric. You stomped all the way to the elevator and punched in the button for the 26th floor. Without even thinking, you knew right where to go. It had been printed on a plain white business card in your welcome briefing.
Donald J. Trump, floor 26, by appointment only.
You jumped off the elevator and barreled past the receptionist who was demanding you state your business and wait your turn. You didn't care. You were already getting fired. You shoved the doors open and see him, a gilded buzzard in a warm orange light, an exotic car that smelled of fresh leather. You were here. It was him.
Mr. Trump, sir,
the receptionist panted.
I have no idea who this woman is, but she got past me before I could.
She is fine, Samantha.
He spoke.
Let her speak, and then I'll decide if I need to take further action.
The receptionist, Samantha, shot you a perturbed look and huffed out the doors. Clearly bothered by this act of mercy from the big boss, his focus turned to you, piercing through your heart, examining your very being.
The Donald will see you now.
Although slightly off guard, you were still fueled by rage and duly began your rant.
Mr. Trump, sir, I don't normally do this, but your son is putting me through hell. He has made extra work for the sake of watching me suffer, which I completed very efficiently, and he still had the fucking gall to fire me. This was my first day. I offered to get him coffee, I stayed in my lane, and I even walked 7 blocks to find carpet cleaner after he smacked coffee out of my hand.
Wait.
Donald piped up.
You mean the new white carpets? Tell me they're okay.
They were. Any traces of a stain had been erased before Eric decided to fire me and spill coffee on it again.
You admitted.
Well, judging by the look of your clothes, you're definitely telling the truth,
he responded.
The only people who lie are losers, and I do not tolerate losers. Take it as a compliment that I'm still talking to you.
It's an honor, sir, truly,
you gasped, flustered beyond belief.
But regardless, I'm still fired. Eric made that extremely clear.
We'll see about that tomorrow. Listen, you've had a rough day and you need to go home,
he said.
If you were upset enough to run up here and bitch to me, I don't think you'd be very useful as a worker right now.
Damn, he doesn't soften the blow at all, does he?
Thank you so much, Mr. Trump. You don't know how grateful...
But,
he interjected with his penchant for interruption,
you honestly look like shit right now, and I can't have anyone see an employee leaving like that. It would cause a PR catastrophe.
Great, he notices the more than obvious stains covering you.
Luckily, my darling daughter Ivanka just had some concepts for a new woman's line made up the other day.
Donald gestured toward the rack of clothing in the corner of his office.
Feel free to wear one home, but have the decency to dry clean it before you return it.
You nodded, currently at a loss of words. Sprinting over to peruse the suits, you found a gorgeous cream-colored pencil skirt and jacket with gold accents. But suddenly, you noticed something.
Sir, there's no place to change?
Right here,
he beckoned.
Now.
Instantly, an array of red flags popped into your head. This was sexual harassment. You couldn't do this, right? But then again, he was one of the most powerful men in the world, and he was saving your ass right now. Plus, you couldn't hide the fact that you felt an odd connection to this old fuzzy peach of a man. Slowly, you began to strip, choosing your top first. Thank goodness you had worn a matching bra and panties. You felt semi-presentable at least. Slippering out of your skirt, you caught the stare of Trump, his cocky hangdog expression making you even more jittery. You felt as though you were being thoroughly examined, unable to escape the gaze of the Donald. Lingering for just one moment, you pulled on the suit as fast as you could, remembering the task at hand. Once you were finished, he spoke up.
Tomorrow, noon, we're having a meeting.
And that was all he said before dismissing you. things just got a lot more interesting. Chapter 4. Trump wants your rump. Hell yes! You danced in the streets and cheered at the top of your lungs in glee. Not only had you managed to keep your job, but you had been promoted. Well, kinda. You were still unsure about how you felt, as Trump had clearly made advances towards you. Well, you think he made advances, but why? What did this billionaire possibly see in you? Regardless, you'll take it. Anything beats being in the same room as Eric. You continue to prance back to your tiny New York apartment full of pride and hope. I definitely deserve takeout today, you declare, dialing the number of your favorite Chinese restaurant with the biggest plans to treat yourself, so you may drop $30 on food just for yourself. But hey, at least you have some leftovers. Probably. The next morning, your nerves are completely racked. All night, you kept exploring the thought that Trump may want more from you as his secretary. Of course, this was probably far from the truth, seeing as how his wife is literally a foreign model. What could he possibly have seen in you? This thought makes the sinister old orange man seem a lot more appealing. No, enthralling. Whatever. You don't have any more time to explore these thoughts because you've made your way once again to the front of Trump Towers. Clutching Ivanka's dry clean suit in one hand, you began to compare the fabrics of it and your current clothing. You had worn one of your own blazers today. Its tweed fabric with gold buttons made you feel like $1,000,000. If only 24, 25, 26, that's my stop. A smile crept across your face. There was something so refreshing about being all the way up here with the sun leaking through the windows just right. You are greeted by Samantha at the reception desk with an expression of pure disgust. Awkwardly, you fake a smile and bolt past. You're gonna have to get used to seeing that every morning. Just on time, you slip past the massive doors to Trump's office, catching him off guard.
Excuse me, Missy, you're supposed to wait until I call on you to enter.
The disturbed man cries. You muster up enough courage to faintly mutter, That's a load of bullshit!
What was that?
Trump bellows with an angry yet interested snarl on his face. You clear your throat and adjust your posture.
I said that's a load of bullshit. Why can't I just come in if I'm your assistant?
Donald's eyebrows raise. Double chin forms. Tiny mouth drops into a pleased expression. He shakes around for a few minutes, almost like he's trying one of those new Snapchat filters. Trump then recoils back into that familiar, yet oh so smug, smirk.
Well done, he chortles. But enough of this. We can't waste time. Let's go over your new position.
You gulped as you began to anticipate all of the potential problematic things that this position could entail. Crap, do you want this position to entail those things?
Okay, dollface, listen to what I'm about to say, because I'm never gonna fucking repeat it again. Your main job is to do whatever the hell I tell you to do. You're my personal assistant, so I want you to behave with at least some decorum. You getting this?
He said. You nod your head rapidly, eagerly trying not to displease the Donald. This doesn't sound too bad.
That means if I get any cravings, you'll need to help me out.
Your eyes widen in horror, and he must notice this because he quickly reassures you.
Doll, relax, I won't ask that much of you. Do you remember that I'm a respectful businessman?
He begins to go off on a tangent.
Why, I built this company completely on my own with only these two hands and a small loan of $1 million.
You never knew what a suave, ambitious businessman he was, and so responsible.
Sugar tits, that was a new one. I'm gonna let you in on a little secret, alright?
He leans in close to you, and you feel the slightest blush in your cheeks.
I make the deals, and I get to tell the losers when they're fired. Got it.
This almost sounded menacing now, but you couldn't help but feel the slightest bit tingily. Why were you feeling like this? This was gross. You hated it, but also loved it?
So in short, I love how comfortable you are around me, but don't abuse that privilege, okay, kiddo? After all, we don't want my wonderful wife Melania to worry about us,
he said with an upturned smile and slightly lidded eyes. Your face was beet red now.
I think I'm gonna go sort through some paperwork right now, boss.
You scramble to back away and grab something to work on. The following afternoon consisted of you trying to distance yourself from Trump as much as you could with being in the same room together. A desk in the furthest corner of the room was now claimed as your own, When asked why it was mandatory for you to remain in the same office as him, Trump responded with,
I can't put you to much use if you're not here for my beck and call, right?
well, that summed it up. After a while, the Donald sauntered up to your desk.
Okay, beep, 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 beep. I'm not a monster. I have to give you a lunch break. This ain't Chinua, you know.
He chortled. Wait, was he trying to say China? Why does he say it so weirdly?
So,
He continued.
take an hour, no more, no less.
You thanked him graciously and began to head out of the door, but not before Trump interjected once more.
Oh, and beep, 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 beep.
He started.
Eat something that's healthy. I don't want you losing that sweet ass.
Your eyes widened and you shut out the door, Trump's laughter cackling in the background. Samantha looked confused at the proceedings, but somehow seemed to enjoy your misery as you slipped into the elevator as quickly as possible. As you walked outside, a terrible commotion rattled over at a hot dog stand down the street. As you looked closer, the situation became crazier. There was an old man fighting the owner of the stand. Chapter 5. A Trump Tower Bump. You ran over to the hot dog stand as everything started to come into view. The owner of the stand looked visibly distressed as an old man was fighting him off with the stand's umbrella.
This is an outrage,
the elderly fighter yelled.
We shall not live in a country where the hot dogs are over $3.
He was yelling in his sing-song tone as he pumped his fist in the air towards the owner of the stand.
What's going on here?
You exclaim.
This old fucker just started screaming at me because I upped my hot dog prices to $6.50.
The owner cried.
He usually eats here every day at this time, and I've never really seen this outburst before.
You stop dead in your tracks.
Really? $6.50 for a hot dog?
The owner smirks.
Yeah, have you never seen that travel vlog where the girl talks about how affordable that $6 sandwich is? I'm getting robbed if I sell my dogs for $2.50 a piece.
Your fist clenches. You can't believe the injustice you're witnessing right now. $6.50 for a hot dog in New York, charging that much for a staple of so many people's diets? Without thinking, you grab a fork and turn on the stand owner.
This is an injustice,
you yell. You look down to see the old man beaming at you, the kindest smile spread across his face. Then he gets fired up.
The greedy 1% will not win,
he screams.
We are the 99!
The two of you spend the next 15 minutes protesting the unjust hot dog prices until the stand owner, embarrassed from his customers running off, agreed to bring the price down to an even $3. The old man had calmed down as the dollar signs decreased and was now speaking normally.
It's definitely not priced for a living wage, but it's a compromise. Fair enough.
You still had about 20 minutes left of your lunch break, so you decided to grab some dogs for the both of you. You couldn't keep this up, though. Your assistant position definitely didn't pay enough for you to be indulging like this. Upon handing the old man his food, you saw him tear up a little.
Sir, are you alright? Yeah,
he sniffled.
It just warms my heart to see a young person fighting the establishment like that. What is your name, child?
It's bleep bleep bleep.
And yours? Bernie,
he replied.
Bernie Sanders. Apologies about my harsh tone earlier. I tend to get riled up when I see injustice.
You almost choked on your food. The Bernie Sanders? As in the presidential candidate? You were definitely starstruck. Who wouldn't be after meeting America's grandpa, one of the kindest men in history?
Mr. Sanders, I'm such a huge fan. You're definitely an inspiration.
You blubbered. Bernie beamed. He looked happy that you even remembered his name, let alone admiring his achievements. While the two of you began to talk politics in a civil manner, you happened to glance down at your watch.
Shit, I'm gonna be late for work if I don't hurry up,
you exclaimed.
That's awful about this capitalist nightmare we live in.
Bernie's face turned red, but then slowly faded back to its natural state of porcelain as he took a few deep breaths.
Sorry, force of habit. Where do you work, child?
Trump Tower, sir. I'm Mr. Trump's personal assistant.
You beamed. Bernie's face soon lost all remaining color. His hair seemed to turn even a shade whiter, if that was at all possible. You grew word for him, but he was unresponsive for a moment. Soon he leaned into your shoulder and almost whispered a message to you.
That man Please, child, be careful. You don't know what injustice is capable of.
Bernie, I'm so sorry. I know he's a jerk, but I didn't have a ton of options. You start until Bernie interjects.
Beep, beep, beep. I'm not mad at you. Just please be careful. I can sense something coming, and it's huge.
You and Bernie agreed to meet up another time as you ran off to finish your day at work. You felt a little anxious, but Trump wouldn't put you in any danger, right? You worried all the way to the elevator and continued to worry up to the 26th floor. You had actually managed to get back 5 minutes ahead of schedule. I'm totally getting the hang of this position. Trump can't fire me, or worse, if I'm the best assistant he's ever had. You glance towards Samantha, looking positively enthralled as usual, and get the non-verbal permission to enter that you need. Upon opening the doors, you see him sitting in his desk chair, but swivel around to where he's facing the wall of windows behind his desk. Rays of afternoon sunlight glisten on his 100% natural comb-over, catching flecks of white and blonde shimmering. This was a side of Trump you had never seen before, stoic and unwavering as he gazed out over the Manhattan skyline. You tried to move quietly as to not disturb his deep thought, but you could tell that he already sensed your presence.
Beep, beep, beep,
he said quietly.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
At what point do you think a human has reached their peak?
Well, it depends on their definition of success, I think. His voice got even quieter, more somber.
I've done it all. Rubbed elbows with celebrities, been happily married with kids several times, become a millionaire.
He continued to stare out the window, eyes becoming lidded and facial expression melancholy.
But for what?
He chuckled.
I've never done anything actually meaningful.
This was a side of Trump you had never seen. He seemed soft, vulnerable. There was actually something enticing about seeing this lecherous man reduced to such a state of uncertainty.
Mr. Trump, sir,
you spoke up.
If you have my advice, I'd like to remind you that you are in perfect position to do whatever you want right now.
Trump's silhouette perked up.
Go on.
Sir, you have more money than most people in the world. You have the resources, connections, and skills to do whatever you want with your life. Donate to charity, become an advocate, make your life great again.
At that, his expression changed. It seemed as though the gears in his head were turning once more. He gave you a piercing stare, then grabbed you by the shoulders, pulling you in closely. You gave a shriek, surprised at his rash action. An intense blush poured across your face as he continued to pull you closer to his. Your noses could practically touch by now, and you got a chance to examine his facial features as he continued to stare at you. His breath wavered from his constantly agape, ring-shaped little mouth. His eyebrows jittered like a field of dying wheat. His beady, scowling eyes made you shiver, either in pleasure or in fear. You prepared yourself for an intense breach of workplace rules, but you were suddenly pushed away.
I don't say this often,
he began,
but go home early.
You scrambled to get your things together, thanking your orange employer over and over again for his generosity. He simply nodded and turned to his folio pad, scribbling down something profound. Later that evening, you returned home, ready to make the most of your evening. You couldn't describe why, but taking some extra care of yourself tonight sounded like a great idea. A few moments later, you were seated in front of your TV with a box of Chinese takeout on your lap and a charcoal peel on your face. No matter how engaging your favorite shows were, though, you couldn't get Trump out of your head. Your cheeks radiated heat upon thinking about the encounter that happened earlier that evening, but you had to force it out of your head. No matter how badly you wanted to think about the possibilities, you had to remain professional. Unless, however, he broke that barrier first. The next morning, you woke refreshed and ready to go. Your Keurig coffee maker squealed as you flipped to the news before getting dressed. Suddenly, you saw it. Donald, in front of Trump Tower, among a crowd of people, announcing his entrance into the 2016 presidential election.
Happy Independence Day, you American motherfuckers.